Time now for the real world with Lee Anderson, and our Red Wall Rottweiler has been fighting crime in his home constituency of Ashfield, racing to the rescue of a local shopkeeper who was being violently attacked by an out-of-control shoplifter. And this comes as a theft epidemic continues to sweep the UK, with Primark, the latest high street brand, forced to fund body-worn cameras for staff coming under increasingly frequent attacks. So, Lee, this sounded dramatic. You're a have-a-go hero now. What happened?
Well, I don't know about that, Dan, but last Friday I was doing my constituency surgery, as I do in Ashfield on a Friday afternoon. Heard a little bit of a commotion. Looked out the window. My staff had said there's Matthew, the shopkeeper, is being attacked. Had a look, and there was a crowd of youths around him. Went down with a staffer and run towards Matthew, and he sort of looked at me as I was running towards him, and this bloke punched him in the face. Got to him, knocked this bloke off, got hold of Matthew, tried to hold him back. And apparently this youth had been in and pinched some alcohol, some cans of beer or whatever, been very abusive. Matthew had gone outside and challenged this man. He got really aggressive, and it was a very, very scary scene. But it's one of those situations, Dan, where you look out the window and you see somebody that you know being attacked. And I guess you wish that you've got it within you to go out and help your friend.
Well, of course, and you think, what if that was my son?
Yeah.
What if that was my daughter? And everyone just stood back.
But it poses a bigger question. Shoplifting is epidemic now.
It's out of control.
People are just going in and taking what they want.
Well, look, Lee, we actually have a surprise message for you tonight from that shopkeeper himself, Matthew Shinto. So have a watch.
He was standing actually opposite side of the Lee Anderson MP's office. Obviously, the shouting in the street, Lee heard it. He rushed to us, and meantime, he rushed to us. I've been attacked physically. Lee came in between us and separated us from attackers, and kept me safe until police come. I just want to take this opportunity to say to you, thank you, Lee. That's a big thanks from us to helping me out. It could be worse than what it is.
Gosh, isn't that lovely?
Wow.
Isn't that lovely?
Yeah. I didn't know about that.
Really touching. But this is a concern, isn't it? I mean, you see the Primark staff, Lee, having to have body cam.
I mean, Dan, who would want to work in a shop with this going on?
Yeah.
The laws are there. We've strengthened legislation. Last year, we're going to strengthen it again this year. The police have got the powers to sort this out. I think sometimes, I'm luckily in Nottinghamshire, our police force are pretty hot on this, but in other parts of the country, I think they'd sooner knock on your door to arrest you for a Twitter crime or a hate crime than actually go and sort this nonsense out.
Sort out the violent crime.
Yeah.
But do you think, at least I guess when you're talking about adult men, Lee, sometimes we have to be prepared to stand up for others a bit more out and about, given that there's so much lawlessness?
We do. I think we've all got a moral duty to stand up and be countered. When you see something like this, Goff, like I say, Matthew was there was 10 or 11 youths around. I didn't know which side of the argument they was on. But like I say, you sometimes think about these things, Dan, and you sort of wish that you've got that moral courage to run into a burning building and help someone.
The problem is everyone tells you to back away.
They do.
Everyone says, look, that person could have a knife, but you obviously weren't worried. You put Michael first.
Well, I couldn't stand there and shut the curtains and shut the window and pretend it wasn't happening.
Good on you. Yeah. Good on you. Now, look, let's move back to the political arena.
Yes,
because could you believe this? Thangam Debonair, the very posh new Labour shadow culture secretary for the media and sport, has never done something, Lee. Look at this, and I'll get your reaction.
We'll end with a bit of a quick fire on culture.
Go.
Ready? Football or rugby?
Oh, you know, I've never been to a football or a rugby match, but I know how much it matters to other people. My husband played rugby. My husband played rugby, so I'm going to have to go with rugby.
Lee, how out of touch are these champagne socialists?
Well, listen, Dan, I mean, this is a classic example of a politician being given a job she knows absolutely nothing about. To come on national TV and admit she knows nothing about the job she's just been given, actually, is a kick in the teeth for anybody out there in the public that's a football fan, that's a sports fan. They see a potential minister there that hasn't got a clue what she's talking about. Never been to a football game. Look, that's okay. That's okay not to go to a football match, but don't go and take a job
as the shadow
football's a national sport
secretary. She would be representing the football industry in cabinet. What's she like? Is she just some posh show?
Well, I don't know what she's like, because again, she's one I think I've passed in the corridor today that when she sees my face, she looks away.
She probably thinks you're a football fan, Lee.
I probably am.
Now look, British Bashing Corporation provoking outrage again. This is over the last night of the proms. They broadcast a Brexit bashing display, lots of EU flags being waved during the traditional patriotic performance of Rule Britannia. So, do you think the BBC is to blame for this, Lee?
Yes, of course it is. I mean, you know my opinions on the BBC. It was noticeable, Dan. You don't... I mean, it used to be a Union flag waving event. We should be waving the flags. We should be waving the Union flag, the flag of the four nations. Again, it's the BBC, the pro-European BBC, flag wavers. They will not forgive us for leaving the European Union. You know, the British taxpayer subsidise this to the tune of about £5 billion a year. Their hard-earned cash, 160 quid a year, whatever, to pay the BBC. They're just a political front for the Labour Party, as far as I'm concerned. I do not pay my licence, Dan. You know that. I've told you before on this show, if they send the heavies round, they'll attempt to clear off and go and have a word with Gary Lineker. he can pay it for me.
Yes, yeah. And, of course, they've cancelled Roisin Murphy now as well because she stood up against puberty blockers.
Yeah.
But look, both sides of the story here on GBNews. As you know, Lee, always a BBC spokesperson said audiences choose to bring their own flags and the Royal Albert Hall space.
Yes, but Dan, they don't choose whether or not they pay the TV licence, do they?
No, they don't. And your mate, Steve Bray, was behind this, you know.
Yeah,
he was front row. He was front row. Yeah. So I'm with you. This was a political campaign. Now, look, I actually want to end with some good news tonight, Lee, because I think too often, especially with Slippery Starmer and his ilk, we're talking down our country. And actually, I think a lot of the time the Ramona masses are actually proven wrong. So the multinational banking giant, BNP Paribas, has advised its French customers to move money out of the Eurozone and into Britain instead.
Yes.
What did you make of it?
Well, I think it's good news. It proves that look, Dan, we was in the EU for, 43, 44 years. It takes a little bit of time to come out, you know, and unravel all that mess that it created. But it's really positive news. But you know the Ramonas, the BBC, the left, the Labour Party, whatever, the trade unions, they will not admit that Brexit will be a success. They hate it. They want to see it fail. And you know what? It's great that they're moving money from France into the UK. I'd like to see some of them migrants move back into France that keep coming over the channel every day, because that winds me up, and you know it does.
Oh, my goodness, I know. But the thing is, Starmer is trying to be a statesman, isn't he? Yeah. So he's over in Europe. But can we trust what he's saying?
You can't trust him. You know, he waits for a different bandwagon every single day. He jumps on that. PMQs today, it was awful. He was, you know, it was boring. He's trying not to make mistakes now. I sort of think, Dan, he thinks it's in the bag for next year. I don't think it's in the bag. He's not a man of substance. He's not a leader. He's a slippery sod, we know that, and he will jump on any bandwagon possible to try and get the keys to number 10. And the British public should be scared. They should be afraid. They should be very afraid.
Well, you know why I'm terrified? Because he is going to throw open outdoors. So if you think it's bad now, and it is bad now, and, you know, we need your party to do much more on it, Lee, and you have said that, but it is going to be a million times worse because he's an open borders guy.
He is.
To his bones, to his core. Yeah. He believes in free movement from Europe and he believes in open borders. So I know he's trying to play tough over in Europe over the past 24 hours, but actually it's about policies, and he doesn't even believe in the Rwanda scheme.
He doesn't believe in the Rwanda scheme. He doesn't believe in protecting our borders. He's keeping very quiet on the subject at the moment. I think the British public, hopefully, Dan, by next year, they will suss him out. He is a slippery sod, and you know what? I fear for my children and possibly grandchildren in the future if these clowns get in.
No, very good point. Lee Anderson, our have-a-go hero. Who do you have on the show this Friday night at 7?
We're recording 2 shows. I've got a good friend of mine, Jim Davidson. He's on the show.
Oh, brilliant. He's on tonight here too.
Yeah, we've got Simon Danchuk, we've got Stephen Hammond, we've got David Simmons, we've got Mike Porky Parry.
Oh, brilliant.
I want to talk to him because he is a great man. I'm looking forward to seeing him.